So I'm super obsessed with doing this in the mirror. All you see is like lines and beautiful squares. It's not the prettiest thing you've ever seen. Hi, this is Brittany and you're watching Locked Queen Bee. Okay, so I'm not really sure how I feel about my hair right now. Usually after I wash it, it's pretty curly. I like the definition. There can be times where right after I wash my hair and it's dry, I put my headband on, and some other times I really like the way it looks without a headband. Today is not one of those days, so I'm just gonna go ahead and rock this video and boom, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm really super excited to do this video for you guys. So as you guys know, I have been taking my locks out and starting a new set. So this is my 4th set and I'm really excited because I am at the 5-week mark and I'm supposed to do my retie normally at 6 weeks, but I was so excited to do this retightening and to use this new setup that I have for my retightening. So what I did was I retied my hair a week early. Yes, so instead of waiting until 6 weeks, I went ahead and did it at 5 weeks. Okay, so let me explain why I was so excited to retighten my hair. So I mentioned that I have a new setup. What I was doing previously was that I was retightening my hair in the bathroom. So if you live in New York City, you know that most apartments don't have AC, and so my bathroom is always hot no matter what time of year it is. So it can be really cold outside and my bathroom's going to be hot because of the lack of airflow and because if you take a hot shower, that room is going to heat up pretty quickly. So it's not comfortable staying in the bathroom to retighten my hair for at least 8 hours. And on top of that, you're also standing for that whole time. And so that was not something that I was super excited about. My sister also complains when I'm in the bathroom the whole time because then she kind of has to work around my schedule for when I'm doing my hair. When she needs to use the bathroom, yeah, I let her go in, but for me, I probably make faces when she asks me to use the bathroom because I want to get in, get my hair done, and get out because the bathroom is hot enough. And so I was really looking for a new way to retighten my hair. I do have mirrors in my bedroom, but they're not set up the way they need to be for a 2-mirror setup. So I have a mirror on one side of my room and then I have like 2 mirrors on the other side of my room, but they're not going to work for the setup that I need. So since I have a ring camera for filming YouTube videos, I decided to go ahead and use my ring light to kind of record me retightening my hair, but also give me a closer look at my hair while I'm retightening it. So I actually saw somebody on YouTube do this. I think it was maybe like Bindi Mark or somebody like that. And I saw them with a ring light at the back of their head, and I could see them like looking at an iPad or a computer to see like what they were doing like in the back of their head. And so the time that I saw that video, I didn't really think anything of it. I was just like, okay, whatever, I'm gonna retighten my hair in the bathroom. And then I feel like for some people, they buy ring lights for their YouTube videos. I wouldn't have necessarily spent that much money on a ring light to retighten my hair. So that's why that was never really an option before. Now that I have a ring light, I was like, okay, how can I make this work? And so I was really excited because first what I did was I have a web camera that I use for Zoom meetings, and I figured out how to hook that up to my computer so that I could see the back of my head. So I basically have my camera behind me and my computer in front of me. And so what I did from there was, okay, I realized that the webcam was not going to work out because it wasn't clear enough and then the lighting was terrible. And so then I used my phone, and then with my phone, I was like, okay, I need to have my flash on because the quality is a little bit better, but the lighting was still terrible. And then once I got the ring light, I was like, okay, let me use the ring light. And that was amazing. So the picture is pretty clear. It's well lit and I can see the parts. I can see where I need to retighten everything and keep everything just neat and in its place. And so I'm really excited to show that process with you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually play the video of me retightening my hair, and while it's playing, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about some things that I noticed while I was retightening my hair. So one thing I want to touch on really quickly again, I mentioned that I started my retightening earlier than I had planned. I don't think that this is a big deal because normally when people get sister locks installed, they come back for a 4-week follow-up. And I think that that happens for a lot of reasons. So one could be that you have unraveling, or 2, that you have slippage, and then 3, you also want to kind of correct any problems early on before they become a bigger issue. So even though I started a week early, that is as bad of a thing as it sounds, because there are people who go in 4 weeks. And then also what happens when you go in at 4 weeks, that helps your consultant to see what your growth pattern is. So if you have a lot of hair at 4 weeks, that means, okay, you need to come in at 4 weeks. If you don't have a lot of hair at 4 weeks, that means that you can come in later, so 5 weeks, 6 weeks, so that you're not retightening when there's like very little new growth, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's talk about my setup. So one thing that I did not mention specifically about my new setup is that when I was retightening my hair in the past, that meant that I was in the bathroom. And so with this new setup, what this allows me to do is not only see everything more clearly and in a more lit situation, it allows me to spend more time with my family. Yeah, that sounds pretty crazy when you think about it, but this new setup allows me to be in my living room with my sister, with my puppies, and I can watch TV. I'm not really watching TV because I'm actually looking at my computer screen to see what I'm doing. Every now and then I can see what's happening on the TV. This allows me to be in the living room with my family, and it also allows me to be more comfortable. I'm sitting, I'm not on my feet, and I can just feel more relaxed when I'm doing my retightening. So it removes some of the stress from the process. You know that I cut my hair off in December 2019, and basically this whole year of 2020 I was putting in a set, taking it out, putting in a new set, and taking it out. And so during that time I actually went to my consultant to do my retightening, and the reason for that was because I did not feel very comfortable retightening hair that was like 2 inches or 3 inches of hair. If you saw one of my earlier videos, I was actually planning to use a bobby pin to retighten my locks at that time, and that was not a very smooth process. It was a great workaround for someone who has short hair, but it wasn't something that I was completely comfortable doing in terms of having to do my whole head. It was great for correcting a lock here, a lock there, but I don't think that I would have survived doing my whole head with just a bobby pin. With that in mind, it has been almost 2 years since I've done my last retightening. For most of my first year, I was doing my own retightening. So for like maybe the first 7 or 8 months, I did my own retightening, and then I started going to my consultant. And then from there, she did all of my retightenings until I big chop. And so this is my first retightening in a while. I was very nervous about it just because I knew how stressful it was. I knew that I was going to be in the bathroom, or at least thought that I was going to be in the bathroom. I didn't know how my hair was going to be in terms of length. Was it going to keep slipping out of the nappy lock tool? What was going to happen with that? And so surprisingly, it wasn't as stressful as it's been in the past, so that's a good thing. One thing I was concerned about with doing the retightening was knowing that my arm strength is nowhere near what it used to be. So by that, what I mean is that if you've done black hair, you know how much upper body strength you need to have to do your hair, because when you're doing your hair, you're combing it, you're detangling it, and there's just a lot of muscle that you need to have, or muscle strength that you need to have when you are doing your hair. For me, I felt like my arms were gonna get tired a lot faster than they did in the past, just because I was not used to retightening my hair at all. And so I knew that that was going to slow down my retightening time. So in the past, I was looking at about 12 to 15 hours. So if you put on top of that I'm out of practice, that could push me anywhere from 12 hours to maybe 20 hours, depending on how many breaks I took and just how I was feeling as the process continued on. Okay, so let's get into the good stuff. So this retightening that I did actually only took about 10 hours. Let me add some more information as to why I did my retightening early. It was at about 5 weeks, and I noticed that my nape was starting to have like slippage, new growth, whatever. And so I knew that if I did another wash, my locks would probably slip a little bit more, which meant that I would have more work to clean up and more work to repair. And so I didn't really want to go into a wash without having had those locks corrected and keep them from getting worse. So initially my plan was just to retighten my nape, wait a week, and then do my actual retightening somewhere on the 22nd through that weekend. And so I did my nape with this new setup, and I loved it. I was shocked at like how clear everything was, how easy it was. Just the fact that I was in the living room, I was able to hang out with my family, that made it different. And so I was so excited about that I continue to retighten my hair. I do have a disclaimer to make. So I actually did not clean my hair before retightening it. And that is kind of like a big deal because whenever you go to a consultant, they tell you to wash your hair at least 24 to 48 hours before the appointment. And so that is very important when someone else is doing your hair. Now for me, because I was doing it and I knew the intent behind me doing it, I didn't really mind as much that I didn't wash my hair because I was just gonna wash it when I finished doing my whole head. And that's actually what I did. And so throughout this video that's playing, you're probably gonna see some areas of my scalp where, okay, you need to wash your hair. And so totally fine with that. I know that I needed to wash it, but I was so excited about this process. So I really wanted to get this retightening over in the best way possible. So what are some things that went well with this retightening? Well, one, I was very surprised at how fast it went. So like when I retightened my hair like 2 years ago, I didn't really section it very well. Like I did like 4 sections, and then I just kind of worked through each section, whereas this time I think I did about maybe 6 or 8 sections, and that made it a little bit easier because there was a smaller amount of hair to work through, whereas with the bigger section it's gonna feel more overwhelming. And so with the smaller sections, everything went easy. And what I actually did was I broke my retightening up into 4 days. So the first day I just did the nape, and that was all I was planning to do, but I loved like the process so much that I wanted to continue going. Like I didn't want to delay it anymore. And so the second section that I did was like the middle of my hair in the back, and that took me about 2.5 hours. So the nape took me maybe about an hour and a half. And then the middle section of the back took about 2.5 hours. And so the third day I came back and I did the top portion of the back, and that took about 2 hours. And then I spent another hour doing just the front of my hair here. I was gonna keep going, but at that point it was like 10-11 o'clock at night, and I knew that I had at least another hour to 2 hours just to do this last section here of my hair. And I was like, okay, I'll just put this off for another day. And so the last day is when I finished up my last section of my hair, and that took probably about 2 to 2.5 hours. That section felt like the longest. I don't know if it was because I was just ready to be done by that point, but like the last 2 sections here, it felt like it took forever. Like everything else kind of like flowed by, and it seemed like it went by so fast, whereas the last 2 sections, they just took so much more time. And so I want to talk about what didn't go well with my retightening. So I did have some mistakes, and as surprised as I am by that, I'm obviously using a ring light, and the picture is so clear that you can see where all of the lines are. And so with the camera angle and like how right hand dominant I am, I want my hand to be in certain places, I want my head to be in certain places, and that didn't quite work with the camera. And so I had trouble kind of like figuring out like where to insert the nappy lock tool and all of that. And so there were some areas where I definitely struggled. So I struggled this section here, so my hair going to the front and my hair going to the back. I struggled with that line because it was so easy to accidentally insert my nappy lock tool too far to where it basically connected 2 locks. So that happened along the sides here quite frequently, and I just had to do a better job of pinning the hair here down so that I wasn't catching it. And then I did accidentally almost kind of like combine maybe 4 locks in total, not all 4 together, but like 2 and 2. And so that was very annoying because I ended up having to cut my hair to separate it, and I was really annoyed that I made that mistake, just because like you can see everything that you're doing, like why are you messing up, why are you making these mistakes. And so I think that makes it easier to understand like how even with the best lighting, the best vision, you can still make mistakes. And so that's just something that I have to learn with doing this retightening. Yes, I've done it before, but I really have to get back into the flow of doing it as good as I can. The top of my hair was also a problem for me, mainly because of the angle of the camera and the angle that I wanted my body to be in so that I could insert my nappy lock tool in the same rotation. So normally in the past, what I've done is when I've been retightening my hair in the bathroom, I've actually changed the rotation depending on what side of my hair I was on. So on this side, I would go 3, 6, 9, 12. Sometimes when I got to the left side of my hair, I would go 9, 6, 3, 12. And I think it was just because of me getting the pattern mixed up when I was looking in the mirror and changing sides. And so the pattern wasn't always in the same direction, depending on which side of my head that you were working on. And so this time, that was something that I tried to do consistently. So I tried to go 3, 6, 9, 12, and then so on. In terms of retightening my hair, I did notice that I had quite a few rotations to do. So by that, what I mean is that I do a 4-point rotation. So I go 3, 6, 9, 12, and then I'm gonna consider that like one rotation is a 4-point rotation. So I'm just gonna refer to those 4 different directions as one rotation. And so for some of my locks, I only had to do 1 rotation. For some locks, I had to do a rotation and a half. So that means the 4-point plus 12 and 3 or something like that, or maybe it would be 3 and 6, whatever. And so for other locks, I had to do 2 rotations. So I had to do the 4-point rotation twice. And I think that that was a combination of hair that was just growing faster, and also some slippage, because I am using an oil that is supposed to help with making your hair grow faster, and that's rice bran oil. I wasn't sure how much that played a role in some of the growth or slippage that I was seeing. And so that's another reason why I am always eager to get that first retightening over with, so that I can see like how my hair would naturally do when it's actually interlocked. So when it's braided, it's gonna slip a little bit more, and it can slip when you interlock it, but I feel like it would slip a little bit less just because the pattern is tighter than it would be for a braid. Now, as for my future retie plan, so with my previous sets, I had basically gone to my consultant 4 times. So to kind of like make up for like wasting my money on those 4 sessions, I'm not wasting my money in that like she did like a bad job or anything. The fact that I paid for those retightenings and then I didn't keep those sets in, so I kind of wasted my money. And so to kind of like make up for that, I want to do at least 4 retightenings on my own. So this first one went pretty well considering my new setup and all of that. And so I do want to do 1 more retie, and then I'll kind of see how I feel about doing the 3rd retie and then the 4th retie. I do plan to go back to my consultant at some point, just because I know that once I do my retightening for say maybe like at least 5 to 8 months, I may actually get tired of the process and want that time back for other things. That was a benefit of going to a consultant, because you knew that for up to 4 hours you were going to someone else and having them retightening your hair, and while they were retightening your hair, you could be doing other things. So you could be on the phone, you could be watching Netflix, you could be sleeping, you could be doing whatever. You just weren't doing the work. And so that is something that I kind of miss. But right now I'm still in that kind of like green phase where I'm kind of like happy to do my retightening, and I am excited about it. One thing I do want to mention is that there's definitely a difference between the way I retighten my hair and the way my consultant retightens it. My consultant, usually after she does it, my head is always sore. I have a headache, and it may not go away until like a day or 2 later. Whereas when I do my own hair, I still go close to the scalp, but like after I did my retightings, those 4 different days that I did it, I felt some like tension, but I wasn't in pain. I wasn't like having a headache or anything like that. So that's the only thing to consider in terms of going back to my consultant. And I can just tell her when I go back that I'm tender-headed, and I think that that would help her to lessen the tension that she's putting on my hair when she retightens. Okay, cool. So we covered a lot in this video. We talked about my retightening, we talked about my new setup, we talked about some of the pros and cons of me having this self-retightening experience. So what I want to do now is leave you with 5 tips in case you are doing your own retightening and you have no idea what to expect. Tip number 1, plan when you're going to do your retightening. So this is very crucial. Are you somebody who wants to retighten your hair after work in the evening when you are tired and when you may not be as focused on your hair? Or are you somebody who wants to do it on the weekend and just take that time to devote to your hair. So you're off from work, but you're still basically working because you're doing your hair, and you know that it's going to take quite a bit of time. But the good news is you only have to do this every 6 weeks or whatever your retightening schedule is. With that, I think that you also need to be realistic about how much you can get done in one day. So for me, with this being my first retightening in a while, I kind of figured out that my max time, like working straight, is maybe 2 hours. So at about 2 hours, that's when I'm kind of like, okay, when is this over with? Am I done yet? And so I did mention that I had 2 days where I went like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, whatever. And that extra 30 minutes, that extra hour definitely weighed on me. I don't want to say that it sacrificed my quality, because I've done my hair in the past like up to 6 hours in one day, up to 8 hours. So I know that I can go longer, but I think for me to be at my best, I would probably prefer to do it in at least 2-hour shifts. So maybe I could do my hair in 2 hours, take a break for 30 minutes to an hour, come back and do another 2 hours. So that may be something that you think about when you're doing your own retightening. Tip number 2, determine where you want to do your retightening. So do you want to do it in the bathroom with a 2-mirror setup, or in your bedroom with a 2-mirror setup? Or would you prefer to have a ring light so that you can just see more clearly, you can see up close, and you have a better light surface to work with? I think that my preference for right now is to use the ring light, just because it gets me out of the bathroom and I get to spend that time sitting and I'm with my family. 3, make sure that you learn the rotation. So if you are retightening your hair and you kind of have an idea, or you know what rotation you are doing, make sure you learn it so that you do it the correct way and consistently each time. So if you're a 4-point rotation, 3, 6, 9, 12, or 12, 9, 6, 3, whatever way that you're doing it, make sure that you do it the same consistently. If you are a 3, you would probably be doing 12, 3, 6, 3, 12. Or whatever direction you want to go in. So you could probably do 3, 6, 9, 6, 3, whatever works for you. So when I was first looking into locks, rotations was something that I researched a lot, because I knew that I planned to do my own hair at some point, and so I knew that it was very important for me to learn the rotation. So if you are locked, you definitely want to go ahead and start doing that research, so that when it comes time to do your retightening, you know how to do that. If you aren't locked yet, you do have some time to figure it out before you are locked, and then you have that additional time before the retightening to learn how to retighten your hair. 4, stick to your retightening schedule. So it's not good if you're constantly changing your retightening schedule. I think that initial first retightening, it could be anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. After that, whatever you determine is your retightening schedule based on your growth pattern and just the state of your hair, you want to be consistent. Because say you go 5 weeks, 5 weeks, 5 weeks, 10 weeks, 5 weeks, 2 weeks, 10 weeks, 5 weeks, that's gonna mess up your locks, because you're gonna have locks that are kind of like uneven in size. So you're gonna have thick locks, really thin locks in the middle, thick locks, and then really thin locks. So you want to make sure that you are being consistent, just so that you are maintaining the shape and condition of your lock. And tip number 5, make sure you clean your hair. I know that I kind of said that this wasn't a big deal, but this is super important in general, just because when you are interlocking, there is a risk that you could trap particles within the lock, and that's not something that you want, because it may be hard to get it out. So if I had a lot of crazy buildup on my scalp, me retightening my hair while it was dirty would have been a big issue, because there would have been particles and buildup that I could not get out no matter what I was doing. At that point, I would probably have to do an AC re-rinse, and I feel like it's way too early in my lock journey for me to even consider that. And so make sure that you are doing your retightening on clean hair. And also, this is something that is kind of controversial in terms of like the condition of your hair. I've noticed that in the past when I'm trying to get my retightenings with my consultant, I always have what's called scalp fall, and that's just basically white particles all over my shirt. I don't really know if that's dandruff or if that's just something that's naturally going to happen, but I've always had that, even going to her, when I'm doing my own hair. And so I've tried different shampoos to kind of like help with that, and nothing's really made a difference. So I don't think that if you have scalp fall that that's necessarily a bad thing. However, if you have like huge chunks of whatever falling out of your scalp when you're doing your retightening, that's probably a bigger issue. So you just want to make sure that you are cleaning your hair before you retighten it. To wrap up this video, I just want to thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions or comments for me, definitely leave them in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.